Hi, I'm Margaret, and welcome to Garden School. Well, these summer days, it seems like all we're doing is watering. And then we water. And then we check on the watering, and then we water some more. It can get much when the weather is so hot for so many days. Now, I'm in the Pacific Northwest, in the Puget Sound area, and honestly, I have nothing to complain about. But my plants seem to be complaining, so thus I'm always watering. But I wanted to talk a little bit about hydrophobic soil. Hydrophobic means it resists water. Different from hydrophilic, which is something that loves or absorbs a lot of water. So let's talk for a moment about hydrophobic soil. What is it? How does it happen? And what to do about it. So many of our potting soils that we might find might say moisture control or something like that, which has an additive in it which helps to make that soil stay hydrophilic and to absorb water instead of becoming hydrophobic. But sometimes we'll get a bag of something or notice a container that has not been watered in a long time, or open a bag of maybe peat moss and find out that there is no way water is going to be absorbed into that material. That's really frustrating, but what do we do about it? Well, I wanted to just show you something that I noticed here in an empty pot. It's been vacant. Don't ask me how it's happened to be vacant here in my place, but has soil in it, but it's been vacant, and I noticed that it's hydrophobic. I want to show you that. You see this soil, it has a lot of vermiculite in it, so it's been some kind of potting soil or something like that. I had been growing some cat grass for my kitty in it, and this was a pot that was not being used anymore. So I just wanted to show you, if I just add a little bit of water on it, you see the water is just sitting there, was just sitting there on the top. Now, this is absorbing a little bit more. That's good, and that's probably because you see how the water just beat it up on the top and it's not being absorbed? It will take a little time for that really to absorb, and I probably should moisten this whole thing here, but you can see how it's lifting a lot of material up, and a lot of material is just floating on the edge. Now I even see it just draining right through. My guess is that the soil is not absorbing water. It's going to take me a little while to get this to absorb water and to become hydrophilic so that I could replant some cat grass. Thinking a little bit about what is causing that situation to happen. I thought, well, it's probably not chemical, not like negative ions resisting combination or anything like that. It could be a physical situation in which the soil, the organic material, shrinks as it dries out, and then there are spaces there, but the spaces are not large enough, I guess, or maybe small enough so that the surface tension of the water is stronger and it doesn't penetrate and absorb into the soil. Well, that could be it. I haven't found any research that supports that, but what I did find was that when organic material dries out, it can release waxy substances or oily substances, and those can then repel water. And we know that wax and oil repel water. So that could be the situation. Also, if in healthy soil, we should have some mycorrhizae and some fungal activity that's really beneficial in that soil. That is very, very important for moisture absorption. So my guess is that in that little container, probably none of that happening. And maybe the surface tension situation is also part of the problem. Well, when I dig down in here, I find the water is gone, moisture's gone in a little bit, but oh, there's a pocket of dry soil. So even though the water filled up the tray below and was leaking out, it must have just found a little connection, a little rivulet, maybe down along the side of the container. Now, that is something that we might experience if we find a plant that has been in a container for a long time, and maybe it's gotten too hot and the soil will shrink away from the edge, and then when you water, where does the water go? It goes right down that little corridor and out of the pot. So sometimes when we say, in a container we want to water until we see water dripping out, well, maybe we also need to make sure that water is being absorbed into the interior part. So perhaps just a little cultivation, something you might do with a tool instead of your fingers, like that, to make that little channel along the edge of a container disappear, so it's not so obvious. Well, I'm going to try and work on rehydrating this soil so I can get some more catgrass started for Kitty. So if you have a container that really seems to be hydrophobic, what you can do is just take that whole container and immerse it in a bucket of water or a basin of water, something like that. Not for too long, but until you can tell that the weight of the container is heavier. That's one clue when you're dealing with containers to know when to water, is if the container is very, very lightweight. There's no water in there, or very little. So you can immerse it till it absorbs some water, and then of course you don't want to leave it in there because roots need air. They can drown if they're just saturated in water. Another thing you can do is just put it in a tray of water, or put a tray of water underneath it and let it absorb water from beneath. That's another thing. Or perhaps just lightly misting the ground a number of times until any surface tension is dissipated, or those waxy or oily residues that are left by the dry organic matter can be washed away perhaps, or washed into the soil. Those are some things you can do. It's best for the plants not to let them dry out so much. Well, I prefer to be hydrophilic, especially when it's hot. So you might think about that for your plants. Don't drown them, but keep that in mind. And if you encounter some hydrophobic soil, you know how you might remedy that. Well, there's always more to learn in the garden. Bye-bye.